Cheese, salami, almond butter, peanut butter, regular butter. What the heck do all of them have in common? What they have in common is that they are all high-fat, low-carbohydrate foods. And we all know about low-carbohydrate diets. We hear about them constantly. And with the advent of the Atkins diet about 10, 15 years ago, we are all flooded with success stories of people that have gone on low-carb diets. Well, the purpose of this video is to talk more about a ketogenic diet and a little bit of the difference between a true ketogenic diet and a low-carb diet, because there is somewhat of a difference. So for the purpose of this video, I'm going to focus mainly on the ketosis ketogenic diet. What that is when you are so deprived of carbohydrates that your body starts to run on fats for fuel. And how that works in a little bit more detail is basically when you are deprived of carbohydrates, your body starts to burn through your already stored carbohydrates in the form of glycogen. You see, you hold carbohydrates in your muscles and in your liver glycogen and muscle glycogen. So the body starts to break those carbohydrates down. It takes 2 to 5 days for someone to usually burn through all of those carbohydrates and ultimately start shifting into that ketosis. Now, when you do finally deprive yourself of the carbohydrates, your liver starts converting fat into ketone bodies. Now, ordinarily, ketone bodies are produced when you're going through some form of starvation. A good, healthy body will produce ketones as a means of survival when you are starving. But by using the ketogenic diet and by eating the right kinds of foods at the right time, you can sort of manipulate that so that your body gets the benefits, if you will, of being in a starvation mode without necessarily the muscle wasting and some of the negative cognitive effects. So in this video, I want to address how ketosis works, who it works for, and when you should potentially do it. The first thing we have to ask ourselves is which is more effective, when the body runs on glucose or when the body runs on fats? Well, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword because it depends on your activity level. But one of the ways that I always explain it to my clients is that if you are consuming carbohydrates, you're consuming a food that has approximately 4 calories per gram. This is a great source of energy, obviously. Now, fat, on the other hand, contains about 9 calories per gram. So when you really think about it, at first glance, you're going to say, well, wait a minute, we've got way too many calories coming in from fat. I'm going to gain a lot of weight. But that's sort of a pessimistic way of looking at it. I encourage you to look at it a little bit differently. From an energy standpoint, if you can truly condition and prime your body to run on those fats, then you are getting more energy per gram rather than just thinking about it as calories. You can get away with eating a little bit less, feel satiated, and be able to have more energy throughout the day. And you don't really notice a difference because the fats do satiate you. They make it so you don't feel quite as hungry. Now, this brings me to a really good point, too, about the brain. You see, our brain does everything for us, especially when it comes to a diet. It's really more mental than anything. So on a ketogenic diet, something interesting happens with the body. You see, ordinarily, the brain likes to run on glucose. But when you go on a ketogenic diet and you drop into ketosis and your liver is now producing those ketone bodies, there is one particular ketone. It's called beta-hydroxybutyrate. And this particular ketone has an interesting effect on the brain. You see, it provides more energy per unit of oxygen than glucose. So that means that once your body is thriving in ketosis, this one beta-hydroxybutyrate can really boost your brain power. And that, a lot of times, is that euphoric, good feeling that people get when they're on a very low-carb ketogenic diet. The other thing we have to look at is the positive effect on mitochondria in the brain when you're on a ketogenic diet. In fact, in a 2004 study, it was found with 2 groups, a control group that was just on a regular diet, and then another group that was on a ketogenic diet for an extended period of time. It was found that the group that was on a ketogenic diet for an extended period of time, well, they ended up showing positive success in terms of how the ketosis affected that gene expression in the mitochondria of the hippocampus and other portions of the brain, particularly the memory and focus portions of the brain. This, simply put, tells us that when we're in ketosis, the brain can expand a little bit more. The brain cells can grow a little bit more. The mitochondria is healthy, which means that we can get more energy, more blood flow, and more, basically, effectiveness out of the memory and focus portions of the brain. This is pretty big if you're someone that needs to use their brain for work, or you're really concerned about not eating enough food and losing that cognitive ability that you would ordinarily have. Now, who does ketosis work for and who does ketosis not work for? If you are a high intensity athlete, if you're someone that is running a lot of sprints, running a lot of high intensity kind of movements and doing a lot of resistance training that's very heavy, ketosis may not be the best for you if you're very performance based. It will work from an aesthetic standpoint. It'll definitely help you lose some fat there, but you're going to find that you probably are a little bit weaker. The reason is those kind of activities, the kind of sports that involve quick, immediate bursts, high intense bursts, well, that requires the energy that is produced from ATP, that ATP production. That is predominantly run on glucose, so you will notice a decline there. However, if you are someone that does a lot of endurance training or you're someone that maybe isn't all that active, then a low-carb ketogenic diet can work very well for you because you're not really activating that ATP regeneration as much. You're not needing that. You're running more on what's called beta oxidation, when your body pulls fat stores and oxidizes them for energy. So that's going to utilize more like the mitochondria, which again, as we found before, positive gene expression when you utilize ketosis. So there you have it. If you're a little bit more active, probably want to stay away from ketosis unless you're just looking for aesthetic benefits. Which leads me into the last and final question that I get asked a lot is, how much weight will I lose if I do a ketosis diet? Well, the thing is, a lot of times when you first start a ketogenic diet, you will lose some weight. And unfortunately, it's water weight. I hate to break that to you, and I'm going to explain real quickly why. You see, when we consume carbohydrates hold about 3.7 grams of water for every 1 gram of carbohydrate. So if we are holding carbohydrates in our muscles and in our liver in the way of glycogen like we're supposed to, you can imagine that we're retaining a little bit of water there. And that's good. We need that intracellular water. It's important. But when we start reducing the calories and reducing the carbohydrates out of our diet, we no longer have that stored glycogen there. That's why sometimes you'll notice like your muscles might feel a little bit smaller and stuff like that, because we're losing that water. And unfortunately, you lose some water weight. But then it kind of starts to balance out and you might start retaining some of that water. So my encouragement to you is to say, basically, if you start going on a ketosis diet, you lose that weight. Well, if it does start coming back, just hang in there because you're just getting over the hump and then the fat loss starts to occur. So at the end of the day, a ketosis diet may or may not be right for you. It all depends on your activity level, and it really comes down to just trying it, because I've seen so many people that have success with it, and then I've seen other people that just feel nauseous and feel terrible doing it. One thing you have to remember before I let you go in this video is that difference between a low carb and a true ketosis diet. When you're in ketosis and your body's running on those ketones, you'll feel good because you're truly there. You're truly running on ketones, that beta hydroxybutyrate and those other ketone bodies. When you're just low carb, sometimes you're hovering right on the fence of dropping into ketosis, which is more often than not where people feel nauseous, where they feel sick, where they feel run down, because you're dancing a fine line between going into ketosis and not going to ketosis. So pick one or the other. Understand what is right for you, and as always, please keep it locked in here on my channel, on my videos, and I will see you in the next one.